What is up, guys? Jeremy here from school.com/financial coaching. I want to talk a little bit in this video about my tips for how to succeed at Northwestern Mutual. Mainly because I've been asked to make this video by a couple of you guys. So thank you so much for watching some of my YouTube videos. And really, for anyone that is interested in the financial advising industry, hopefully there are a couple things you can glean from in this video. I really want to talk way too long because there are some tips that I want to share about thriving at Northwestern, how to succeed, but there's also this more meta conversation, which is how to succeed at anything, any job in life, and some of those talking points are important. And there's this other part of me that wants to talk about why and how succeeding independently in your own RIA firm is optimal for most people compared to trying to succeed at a big box brokerage. So I'm going to try to stay away from those other two conversations and just nail this into Northwestern. And this is my perspective. So I interned as a college student at Northwestern Mutual in 2016. I then flipped full-time, which I was the only one in my intern class to accomplish. You have to, produce some clients. You have to drive some business as a college intern to even have the opportunity to go from intern to full-time. And then I was full-time for about a year before leaving the financial services industry. I went into ministry, was full-time in ministry for 6 or 7 years or so before starting, I guess it was only like 4 years, before starting my own independent RIA firm, aka a registered investment advisory. So now I manage money for people full-time. Currently it's pretty small, I'm in the early days. I'm just a couple years into it, but about 40 to 50 households as clients and a little over $5 million in assets under management without ever making a single sales call or charging a single commission or selling a single financial product. Building things the way that I want to. All that to say, succeeding at Northwestern, let's get into it. There are some big picture values like working hard, having integrity, doing the right thing for people. Some simple baseline things that no matter what your job is, they matter. And they matter at Northwestern even more so because you are building your own reputation, your own brand. You are presenting yourself as a leader of people, particularly in the area of their finances. And so the best thing you can do is, how do I build trust with people? That matters as far as your peers within the industry, but it matters especially with your prospects, your potential clients that you are going to bring on. And if people do not trust you, like if off the jump, people don't trust you, please don't go work at Northwestern Mutual. If people are neutral about you, that you can grow from that. But really, the process of succeeding in any financial advisory firm is ultimately a process of adding to the business, generating revenue, acquiring clients. So for someone to entrust you as their financial coach or their financial advisor, it's going to require more than anything trust. And how they trust you is usually not going to be because you have the most credentials out of anyone in the world. Credentials don't hurt, of course, but it's usually going to be these interpersonal dynamics, a lot of which have already been set in motion for years, if not decades. Your initial clients, whether you go independent or whether you're going at Northwestern Mutual, the first clients you make are going to be from relationships that you already have. And so it's just an important thing to evaluate when you're thinking about going into this business, is where do you stand with people? How do people view you? Have you ever gotten a text from someone asking you a financial question? Has anyone wanted to meet up with you to talk about their finances or their budget, or to ask you an investment question, or do people associate you, even if it's not financial related? Maybe you have no financial reputation at all. Have people asked you to meet with you to ask you anything else before? Do you have a general, like, you are worthy of seeking counsel from? People value what you have to say about things. Just a general trust. Or are you the butt of every joke, and the person that somehow lacks the ability to cultivate that type of relationship with people, where people might not care whether or not you weigh in on something either way? If you have at least a little bit of trust to work with, succeeding at Northwestern really comes down to how do you build that trust, and succeeding as a financial advisor in general. Let me get a little bit specific now into some of the nuts and bolts. One, which there's multiple ways to look at success. And I guess that's one of my first tips, is what success could look like for you might be multiple things. So if you want to be at Northwestern for the rest of your life, and that is the only way that you are successful at Northwestern, then you really don't even need to watch this video, because all you need to do is just do whatever Northwestern tells you to do. And I'm going to tell you right now, here's what they're going to tell you to do. Call 40 people every day. 40 calls. Get 5 referrals every day. So 5 new phone numbers, 5 leads that you are going to get from either people that you meet randomly at the grocery store, which is going to be about 5% of them, and 95% of them are going to be from you asking people that you already know to give you numbers of people they know that you don't know that you can call. Or sending people DMs on social media and LinkedIn asking, again, for contact info for more people to call. That is the name of the game. As I already mentioned at the beginning of this video, I don't do that in my RIA. I manage money for people. I don't do this. I don't ask for referrals. I don't make calls, period. I mean, I call like the bank once a year, I don't call for prospecting clients or, to acquire business. I have a no sales model. But you will not last at Northwestern or any big box firm that way. You have to lean into the sales process. And so if you want to succeed long term, it really comes down to, you got to get numbers and you got to call them, and then you got to set appointments with them, and they need to keep those appointments. And in those appointments, you need to talk about their finances, and then you need to set follow-up appointments where you can make financial recommendations that may or may not include, only if it's appropriate for them, but that may include products for sale that you can sell them as an agent of Northwestern, by which you receive a commission. This is the name of the game. It's a love-hate relationship for anyone that gets into this business, because really all you care about is helping people, and you don't really want to think of yourself as a sales agent, but you are a sales agent. That is the business you're starting as a contract worker for Northwestern. You are a sales rep for Northwestern. You can do lots of other things in your charitable efforts. You can meet up with people to help them with their budget and not charge them for that meeting, and just be there. But you're not getting paid to do that. That's not associated with your contract, your longevity at Northwestern. What you're getting paid for is the product sales. So rather than disassociate from that, to succeed at Northwestern, you really have to learn how to lean into that in a way that fits you. So again, if you are the super sales guy, you're like, I'm just going to make sales. Let's go get some money. Let's go get some clients. Then this is perfect for you. Okay, you don't even have to worry about it. If you're not so salesy and you just want to help people, then you have to convert that language into something that makes sense for you. And that could be different for every person. But it's important to think about, how can you lean into calling people in a way that fits you? For me, I tried to make it fun. I tried to make it personable, like laugh, use humor to your advantage, still be the same you, get the elephant out of the room, anything they might be thinking that you're like, oh my gosh, I feel embarrassed about this, just get it out there and then move forward into setting those meetings and keeping those meetings. And again, all of this is easier said than done because the sales process, it will wear on you if you don't play the game. But if you play the game, you can get good at sales. And I just want to say, big picture, that's one of the great ways that you can succeed at Northwestern is if you learn to grow in the skill of sales. That is a huge success that you will keep for the rest of your life. I already said I went from Northwestern into ministry. It is very often in ministry that you're asking someone to meet with you that may or may not know whether they really want to meet with you. And then you want to meet with them again, right? Because you're trying to inspire people. You're trying to challenge people. You're trying to make people better. You're trying to include people into your church group or whatever it is you have going on. So it's leadership. It's leading people. And my background doing Northwestern Mutual helped the way that I presented myself. And also people leave. People say no. People cancel meetings. And how do you get used to that as a rhythm of life rather than, if that happened to you, your best friend did that might feel really hurtful. But if you get used to, I have meetings set all the time and some of them cancel all the time and I'm always setting new meetings and I'm making new friends and it just becomes part of life. You become a little bit numb to the sensitivity of someone backing out. So learning the sales process is a huge win. If you're going to be a part of Northwestern or any big brokerage, you have to lean into how can you help me get better at sales? Even asking for referrals. How do you do that in a way that feels like you? Again, I don't do that anymore, but I found a way to do it that felt appropriate, that felt fitting, that felt respectful. Anytime you're leading someone, there's always a little bit of uncomfortability because otherwise it's not leadership, right? You're just hanging out. But if you're trying to lead someone, that means you're pulling them or pushing them to a place that they're not yet. So there's discomfort. It's a part of it. But how do you do that in a way that feels honest to who you are, consistent with your values, etc.? So leaning into that sales process, working on that language, how do you make it your own? Northwestern is probably going to tell you, here are the words to say, here's your language. I would recommend that you make your own language. Northwestern is going to tell you, hey, when you meet up with a client or a prospect, take an already existing long-term Northwestern rep with you so that you can do joint work, so that you can learn from them how they run their business, how they do a close, etc., what type of financial plan or recommendation they would make. I would say in general, don't do joint work because a couple reasons. One, you don't make very much money at the beginning at Northwestern. And so here's a great idea. If you know you're not going to make a lot of money, how about don't cut your money in half? Half of a little is a real little. And when you take on joint work, you're splitting the commission from any potential sale to that person. I cannot think of a single time when I brought joint work and I gained a client because of that rep, that joint work rep that I wouldn't have gained without them. And I can think of multiple times where the joint work rep lost me a client. Something they said or something they failed to do cost me the whole client. So not only so I missed out on half, I was willing to split it in half, and now I missed out on the whole. And would have closed without them. And I can't think of a single time when I didn't close a client where, man, if I had another rep here, that would have really helped me. Or I was over my head. Ultimately, Northwestern wants you to bring joint work because that helps them pass off your business to the corporation after you leave, because they know you're not going to make it. 95%, 99% probably of reps at Northwestern do not stay longer than 3 years. And I know what you're thinking, like, oh, every business, no, it's like 40% of businesses make it longer than 2 years or something like that. Maybe even longer than 3. So like a sales rep at Northwestern, it's something like 90% more, what am I trying to say? Like 90% less likely that you continue compared to if you had started a business independently. The way it's set up is to churn sales reps. It's to churn you and burn you. It's to get every bit of juice out of you in terms of contacts, etc. Get the business to Northwestern, and then boom, you already have the joint work. You have, the long-term rep that's going to work with your relationship is already set up. So even after you leave, it's like, hey, they've already met so-and-so, and they can just keep working with them, no problem. So anyways, Northwestern is going to tell you do a lot of joint work. I would say if you want to succeed at Northwestern, I would not recommend joint work. You're going to need every dollar you can get, and you're going to need all the practice you can get, and you practice by doing. When you lead the meeting, that is practice. When you sit there and watch someone else do a meeting, that is not practice. That's great observation. If you really want to observe, ask a rep, hey, can I join you for one of your meetings this month? If you want to learn from them, just go to their client meeting. And they're going to say to their client that they've already had for years, hey, we have a young rep that's going to join me. He wants to just observe our conversation. Great. Or, hey, do you have any new prospect meetings this month? Could I join you on any of them? You're not going to get paid for that, but you're going to get that gleaming. And then 100% of the meetings that you could actually be paid for, just go lead the meeting yourself. Ultimately, if when you're setting a meeting with someone, you're talking with them on the phone, the only way you can get them to agree is by you appealing to someone else's authority, then it's a really low level of influence, a low level of leadership, and the writing is on the wall that you're not going to last. You're not going to be able to start a business by saying, hey, I know someone else that's a really great financial advisor. Will you come meet with them? Like, that's called a call center. And call center people do not make what a financial advisor makes long term, right? So you don't want to be a call center intern for 6 months and then leave. You want to learn the sales process. You want to learn the leadership process. What can you go create from a values perspective, and what can you go hunt from a sales perspective? Making sense so far? Try to lead the meeting yourself. Don't do a lot of joint work. Most everything else that Northwestern tells you is pretty legit as far as the sales process. There are a couple of things philosophically that I feel differently about as far as how they map out a financial plan compared to how I would for someone. But it's not like right or wrong. It's just they're super conservative, and I think it's hurtful to people's financial trajectory. But it's not like bad. It's like any financial advisor, no matter where you are, unless you're recommending that people take their money and light it on fire, you are doing a good job for people. Like, you're helping them. You're helping them put money away into investments that they otherwise might not have done. Which, as far as succeeding at Northwestern goes, it matters from a perspective of, when you hit the wall, when you're not in the mood, when you just don't want to call another person and get rejected again, like, you have to dig down and believe that you are doing a great thing for people, which, if you are, then you are. So don't bend on those ethical lines that you have, because if you do, it's over. You won't be able to motivate yourself to keep doing that unless you sell your soul entirely, and you don't want to do that. That's another piece that I want to mention is other paths of succeeding at Northwestern. So of course you could stay at Northwestern forever. Very unlikely that you do that, but if you want to do that, just do everything Northwestern says every day, forever. And don't question it. Just become it. Just manifest Northwestern on earth. And that will give you the best chance of staying there long term. That said, succeeding could also look like developing that sales skill. It also looks like building trust with clients. Like I said, I started my own firm years later, 5 years after leaving Northwestern. I started my own independent financial advisory, and many of the clients I have, I called them back when I worked at Northwestern. And I didn't call them when I started my own investment advisory. But what I'm saying is the reputation that you build while you are pursuing those relationships matters, because those are potential clients in the future and they're potential employers in the future. There are a lot of people that I met with that I never could have sniffed at them becoming my client from an insurance perspective or investment perspective back when I was 19 years old. But what I did get to do is hear about their career, where they're from, what they value. And some of those people have been great open doors in other ways in my life down the road. And so the trust that you're building, the relationships that you're building can continue well beyond Northwestern. And so make sure that you are yourself so that you can be better off for all those relationships. This is hard to do. This is hard to do because Northwestern is basically going to push you to do anything and everything to get another client, kind of like regardless of how it affects your relationship, because who needs the friendship? What's better for them is that they get their finances in order, right? And I would say, hey, helping someone get their finances in order is a great thing, but not at the expense of a friendship. At least not if they're any decent of a friend. If they're, your 175th best friend in the world, then okay, great. If you lose that friendship over a potential ability to serve them financially, maybe that's worth the cost, But for the relationships where people know you, where you have a reputation, where you have some level of trust, don't let Northwestern burn that bridge where now they don't trust you anymore and you just screwed over your future because you like got lost in the sauce of trying to make a commission. The trust building is the other huge way to succeed at Northwestern, because it opens the doors for potential future employers and it opens the door for potential future clients. You have the luxury where you are paid basically to full-time make relationships. Go spend time with people and talk to them. Your ability to leverage that for your benefit and for their benefit, to cultivate an actual mutually beneficial relationship, that is the name of the game. That is the key to making Northwestern a successful experience, or any big brokerage a successful experience, is how are you cultivating those relationships? And you don't have to be able to quantify exactly how or when that is going to pay off. What's important is that you are consistent with who you are, that you're saying the same messaging person to person, that is consistent with your values. That's going to build trust over time. And again, it's trust that you're building, leadership that you are leading. It's not saying, hey, come talk to Northwestern. They're super great. It's not come talk to so-and-so. I don't know anything, but he knows everything. It's, can I meet with you? I want to hear about what you do. I want to hear about your financial strategies. I want to see if there's any way that I can help you. If I can't, man, I have a lot of people I can learn from. I can ask questions to. Thankfully, this genius is across the hall from me. And so if we need to bring someone in, we can. But, man, would love to get together. And building those relationships while also growing in the sales process, I would say those are the two the two things that benefited me the most at Northwestern. And I could have stayed at Northwestern. I could have kept going. So as far as the whole succeed at Northwestern, you can keep going. Like And Northwestern will help you keep going. They don't really want you to burn out. They just know that you will. And the only way that you won't is through this deep internalization of the process. If you're just executing a script that they give you, you will burn out. If you're just doing this job that doesn't pay you anything, you will burn out. But if you become internally, like if you can really capture the vision of what you are trying to create for people, and then you communicate that to people consistently over time, your business will grow, no doubt. And you just have to look inward rather than comparing yourself to what the next person and the next person and the next person is doing, because that comparison is either going to puff you up and make you think you're doing better than you are, or it's going to make you feel super small and like you're never going to get through this, and it's all a scam and all these people are out to manipulate you or something like that. It's a love-hate relationship being a contract worker. Any contract worker, I'm sure, would attest to that, no matter what the industry is. At Northwestern, you are being taxed like you're self-employed. It is your financial practice, but you are 100% of your income is coming from a single client, a single contract that is paying you. So it's just important to navigate. Like, you have to keep them happy. The main way you keep them happy is you produce, you bring on clients. If you're selling insurance, again, you don't just sell insurance to someone, but if you find someone that needs life insurance and you're able to meet that need for them, awesome. They're going to be happy, and you're going to have more leeway with, do you do joint work or not, or do you work in the office or not, or whatever little tweaks of your language that you like doing this part but you don't do that part with the fact finder or with a prospecting meeting or with your appointment setting language. You have leeway to make it your own as long as you're producing. And if you're not producing, who cares if you use Northwestern language? Because if you're not producing, they're going to let you go, right? Like, you have to keep going. There's no end. There's no just like ride into the sunset. You have to show some level of activity to keep your contract active. So again, preparing for the long haul, huge piece of it. I am trying to think if there's anything that I am leaving out that I would really want to say to someone that was like, man, how can I thrive at Northwestern? I feel like I'm being a little redundant in this video. My apologies. It has been like 6 years. No, it's been like 10 years, 8 years since I've been at Northwestern. But I am a financial advisor myself now, and I can see some of the differences and glean from it. And I'm still a client of Northwestern. I still have an insurance policy with them, and have some friends in the firm still. It's a great firm, great insurance firm. I mean, we could get more specific into some things, like how many appointments do you set? I mean, really, it's as many as you can, but as many of your appointments that can be over meals or coffee, I would recommend it. Northwestern's probably going to want you to do a lot of them in office. I think people are much more comfortable when you meet over food or coffee. You don't even have to treat, just meet them there. You don't even have to get anything. I would do 3 lunches most days. I'd do a breakfast, a coffee, 3 lunches, like an 11 and a 12 and a 1, lunch. So one of them I'd just get a water and, yeah, I just ate. And that kind of builds trust anyways, because, oh man, this guy's walking around and he's talking to people. I'm not just like the one person he's hoping becomes a client. Like, demonstrating that you're busy, that you have a high activity level, I think builds trust with people. And food builds trust with people, helps relax people a little bit, making it personal. And then don't be afraid to talk about the finances to get into it. Like, don't beat around the bush. That's awkward if you do that. Just it's really normal. Really normal. Don't make it weird. If you make it weird, it's over. You lost that business for sure. At least in the short term. But that's pretty much that's pretty much the job. Every day feels like game day. It's a lot of like, whoo, here we go. Like, it's like you're about to hike, not Mount Everest, but like a smaller mountain that you're still not really sure if you can get to the top of it. And you're not going to know until you're about 3/4 of the way up. Like, every day is like that. It is a grind emotionally. It's a challenge. I wouldn't recommend it to people. I made a video. This video is in response to a video I made titled, "You Don't Want to Work for Northwestern Mutual." So I don't want to overhype it. But as far as the tweaks and the learnings, I mean, reading books, I would recommend it. Like, again, it's really like, how much can you internalize and really embody and manifest the things that you're wanting to cultivate as it relates to a financial practice. So investing in yourself and letting that overflow into the way you're investing in others, and then just grinding. That's really what it comes down to. And even if you succeed, you might not want to stay there. You might want to roll that into a new practice. A lot of people do that. They'll start building their business under one big brokerage, and then they'll go independent. And guess what? 90+% of the clients will follow you, even though they became your client when you were at Northwestern. They don't care about Northwestern. They just trust you. That's this whole thing we're talking about, is building trust. Finances in particular, it's a high trust relationship. Like, even more than a pastor. No doubt. There are bigger walls towards someone thinking about meeting with a financial advisor than someone meeting with a pastor, or disclosing to someone their finances versus disclosing to someone the state of their spiritual life. It's a difficult nut to crack, but if you can get people to open up to trust you with what really matters to them, then that, seeing that, it's like a light bulb moment that then you can use the rest of your life. You can use that. And I don't mean use people. I mean, use like food, use humor, use a smile, use like brush your teeth. Like, it's not like you're trying to trick people, but it's like, man, how I can actually help people feel comfortable and help cultivate trust. And as long as I don't abuse that trust and actually use it in people's best interest, then that's going to be a win-win. It increases what you can make, and it increases the amount of value that you can provide to others the more that people trust you. So try to learn from your meetings. Take mental notes, or even take real notes. What went well, what didn't go well. Think about your language a lot. Think about your body language a lot. Think about the type of people you're meeting with, how they know you, what their preconceived notion is of you. Ask a lot of questions. Listen a lot. Don't talk a lot. Don't do what I'm doing right now. If you meet with someone and talk at them for 33 minutes, they're not signing any dotted line. If you ask questions and you listen, you try to understand what their priorities are, and then you ask follow-up questions, even better understand their priorities, boom, trust is building. On the front end, setting those meetings, you got to get kind of aggressive. Overcome a lot of obstacles, a lot of hurdles. Deflecting rejections. People are like, no, I don't really want to meet. Like, I know, man, I don't want to either, but it's just my job. Like, come on, let me treat you to something. Let's do it. I know you eat food at least once a week. And you just you disarm people's resistance to, the sales guy. You got to fight to get that meeting, right? And have fun with it. But once you're at that meeting, boom, the tables turn. Help me understand you. Help me understand your priorities. Tell me your dreams. Man, just pump me up for your life. But again, tweak this to make it your own language. And just see if there's a way you can help. And maybe you can't help, and that's okay. That builds trust too. All right. Go kill it, guys. Have fun at Northwestern Mutual. Or have fun starting your own RIA. If you want to start your own RIA, I would love to help coach you. If you need an investment manager, I love to consider managing money for you. Those are the things that I do these days. I coach people and I manage money. All right, I'm not a shill. That's just actually my business. I make YouTube videos for fun. All right. So if you don't like them, try to be nice to me. All right. I'll talk to y'all later.